From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Soini Gray. We begin in Haiti, where Caribbean leaders are meeting for the 29th intersessional meeting of CARICOM. Leaders discussed everything from climate resilience and security to EU sanctions and even cricket. Outgoing CARICOM Chair, Grenada's Prime Minister Keith Mitchell thanked member states for their help after Hurricanes Maria and Irma, but also expressed strong objection to the blacklisting of some CARICOM member states by the European Union. Incoming Chairman and President of Haiti, Jovenel Moïse, urged the region to abide by international climate commitments. He also pushed for the combating of transnational crime. Meanwhile, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, called for the development of a counter-terrorism strategy for the region. And our Laura Prada is in Port-au-Prince and brings us this report.
Hello, nice to greet you indeed. We continue here at the Hotel Marriott Port-au-Prince in Haiti, where is taking place the 29th intersessional meeting of heads of state and government of CARICOM. The inauguration ceremony just finished and they are now working on closed doors. But the main topics repeated on this opening ceremony were the need of the importance of this political concentration space, and especially working on an action plan that is liable for to work and to prevent climate change and risk prevention of disasters. Also, they call to maintain a close position of CARICOM in all topics they agree when they meet. This is what has been happening here so far. They also talked about the need to work together throughout the region to promote economy and development of the region. Also, they talked about the free movement and the facilities needed for the region and the Caribbean to be connected. This is all what has been going on that I know will continue in touch.
Thank you, Laura Prada, for that report. The National Electoral Council in Venezuela has begun registration for political parties willing to contest the April 22nd election. Our Freddie Gillingham breaks down who the candidates are so far.
Venezuela's CNE began the process of formalizing nominations for this year's presidential election, with President Nicolas Maduro expected to put himself forward on Tuesday. Today, the floor was open to the lesser-known contenders. The first to step forward, representing the UPP-89 party, was Reynaldo Quijada. He and his party are among 12 political parties eligible to participate in April. But with the country's opposition bloc, better known as the MUD, threatening to boycott, candidates like Quijada may have a better chance than expected.
We are committed to recognizing the 2018 presidential election results, whatever the outcome, as established within the Democratic Coexistence Agreement. So we suggest that all candidates submit an official written commitment to the agreement.
So far, the MUD coalition remains more divided than ever on whether to head to the polls. Three of its largest parties decried the election date, calling it fraudulent, despite months of negotiations in the Dominican Republic. Much of the international media are now focusing on a part of the opposition who have decided to boycott the vote on April 22nd. But from today, we can now see that there are still some who still believe in the democratic process. The accepted nominations will be announced by the CNE on Friday. Freddie Gillingham, teleSUR, Caracas.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is confident of a win at the upcoming general election. Maduro said that in the 19 years since the beginning of the Bolivarian Revolution, 24 elections have taken place, of which the government has won 22. He believes that Hugo Chávez's legacy has helped him garner 55% of intended votes for the April 22nd poll. In an interview with state media, Maduro rebuked comments that his numbers were questionable.
Regarding the U.S. and the opposition stance of non-participation in the upcoming elections, President Maduro said they had been painted into a corner by clear numbers that didn't run in their favor.
I am giving you true numbers, scientifically measured between the candidate Nicolas Maduro versus any candidate that the opposition could have. The United States Embassy has these numbers. The opposition also has these numbers. This is why they have shifted to a bad, dangerous and self-destructive position to get themselves out of the electoral competition.
With regard to self-criticism, corruption was an important theme. The Venezuelan president highlighted that corruption is being fought through the Constituent National Assembly.
We could talk about the corruption issue. In a country where there was immense wealth over 100 years, a culture of bribery and corruption was created. And unfortunately, this reached the highest authorities in the oil industry. Now, we can say, to balance the self-criticism, that fortunately, with the power of the National Constituent Assembly, a truly strict persecution against any corruption case has started.
President Maduro also talked about progress in oil production recovery in the country.
There are several factors. A factor that has to do with the compliance of the fees with OPEC. An important reduction in the country's fees was established. There is a second factor, the corruption and the inefficiency of the heads of the oil industry that were involved in corruption cases. This led to an important reduction of 1 million of oil barrels. We're recovering it. Fortunately, I think that in the first semester of this year, we will recover 70% of the production that was affected by the factors that I am saying.
With respect to the presidential elections and the position of the opposition, the Venezuelan president reiterated the provision to maintain constitutional guarantees to all Venezuelans who want to run.
In Venezuela, whoever wants to be a candidate will have all the guarantees. In fact, they are the same the opposition had in 2015 when they beat us in National Assembly elections.
As for the April 22nd presidential elections, Maduro said that before, during and after the elections, it will call for dialogue, despite the opposition's reluctance to talk and fear of compromise.
The Venezuelan government has accused the United States of attacking the peace and stability of the country by trying to judge the election process. This comes after Washington supported the opposition's decision to boycott the polls. The statement said the U.S. is assuming the role of an authority and seeks to define the future of people when it hasn't been granted the right to do so. President Maduro also criticized comments previously made by U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson when he suggested the army could stage a coup.
When imperialism and the U.S. Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, calls on Venezuelan military officials to undertake a coup, he's offending the Bolivarian dignity of our Bolivarian National Armed Forces. And our Bolivarian National Armed Forces respond with the 2018 military independence exercise and cry out, independence fatherland, to the Secretary of State and to imperialism.
Venezuela's Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza has arrived in Switzerland. This is the first stop on the European leg of his global diplomacy tour. Arreaza hopes to foster stronger ties and drum up support for the government. He also took part in the United Nations 37th Human Rights Council meeting, which was set up by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And during that conference, Arreaza voiced his opposition to U.S. policy and the impact it could have on a country heading to the polls.
Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza's message was clear. The interference of the United States is harmful to the people of Venezuela.
We want to warn the Council of Human Rights, a vital institution to protect the people's rights, the dangerous situation that we are in, because the United States and its allies want to provoke Venezuela through sanctions imposed. That will only harm the Venezuelan people. The U.S. is doing this with political and financial extortion exercised by Washington over the governments in Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean. There's also relentless psychological and media war that has been very well planned and financed.
Arreaza called on all political parties in Venezuela to play fair during the elections. He said all sides should stick to the agreement reached during the talks between the government and opposition in the Dominican Republic.
We will have free elections, sovereign and transparent, on April 22nd. We hope every political party fulfills the agreement made in Santo Domingo with responsibility. We know some parties, despite having the will to participate, they still don't have Washington's authorization to register their presidential candidates.
Arreaza ratified Venezuela's defense of human rights. He also said the United Nations Council of Human Rights may need to be protected from more powerful countries.
In this year that we celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights, Venezuela ratifies its commitment to guarantee and defend human rights at this council meeting. We hope to keep on working to strengthen this institution. We have to shield this council from the pressures and interventions of powerful countries who want to influence the council in favor of their opinions. Let's remember the issues of human rights have been used by belligerent countries to justify wars and to generate the conditions to allow the worst violations of human rights.
Ahead of his speech at the council, the foreign minister held a meeting with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
In Brazil, Michel Temer has consolidated several security agencies into a new ministry, with a new minister expected to be sworn in within days. We have more from our correspondent, Adriana Robreño.
Hola, saludos para ti, para toda la...
President Michel Temer today signed a provisional decree that creates the Ministry of Public Safety. According to the president's spokesperson, the man in charge of this ministry will be Raúl Jungmann, who previously served as defense minister. Taking his place will be Joaquim Silva de Lula, an active duty general. The new Ministry of Public Safety will be in charge of the Federal Police, the Traffic Police, the National Penitentiary Department, and the Office of Public Safety, which had all been under the command of the Ministry of Justice. Congress will ratify this measure within 60 days, but this act will be official as soon as it's published on the government's official journal. In fact, the swearing-in of the new ministers is already being planned for next Tuesday. According to Temer, the Ministry of Public Safety is a temporary measure meant to share intelligence between agencies. This all comes as Rio de Janeiro finds itself under military intervention. President Temer, whose approval rating stands below 10%, is believed to want to push this public safety agenda as a way to improve his public image, despite the fact that he said he doesn't plan to run in the upcoming elections.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting.
Preste atenção nisso que a gente vai falar.
Evite sair de casa em altas horas, infelizmente à noite.
Não saia sem documentos. Priorize levar na bolsa, na carteira ou na mochila a sua carteira de identidade ou a sua carteira de trabalho.
Celular na horizontal, ó, e não é para tampar a saída de áudio, porque a gente precisa escutar o que o ser humano que está disparando está dizendo. Nós, negros, somos sempre alvos de abusos, retaliações. Infelizmente, à noite, a partir do olhar do outro, você é não somente negro, mas bandido e apresenta perigo.
Em lugares públicos, evite o uso de furadeira e guarda-chuva longo. Parece bobagem, mas muitas pessoas olham isso de longe e acham que são armas de fogo.
Welcome back. Antigua and Barbuda will hold parliamentary elections on March 21st. Prime Minister Gaston Browne made the announcement during a party rally late on Saturday. Browne said he called for early elections to protect the many plans his Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, the APLP, has scheduled for the coming years. He also introduced the 17 candidates proposed by his party. Browne has already asked the Governor General to dissolve the current parliament by February 26. He will then issue the official call for elections on Tuesday.
So, the date of the next general elections will be Wednesday, March 21st.
In Peru, President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski is falling out of favor. His approval rating has hit a new low of just 17%. The poll conducted by La Republican newspaper and GFK Global is showing that 83% of Peruvians do not approve of their president's policies and political conduct. More than half of them want him removed. A similar number of people want him to resign. Kuczynski's numbers have taken a hit because of corruption allegations and the controversial pardon of jailed former leader Alberto Fujimori. Honduras's opposition alliance wants political prisoners to be freed from maximum security jails. The opposition says the prisoners were detained for opposing the controversial re-election of President Juan Orlando Hernandez. The government has denounced the move, saying the opposition is aligned with gangs and looters. In response, the government cancelled visitor privileges to the prison, prompting the alliance to pull back plans for a protest. In a tweet, former Honduran President Manuel Zelaya said the opposition is now being blamed for the cancellation of family visits. The United States has broken ground on a border wall between the states of California and Mexico. Workers have taken down the old metal fence that marked the divide between the two countries. In its place, they will erect a 9-meter-high wall. This will cost $18 million and take 300 days to complete. The project was approved by former President Barack Obama. However, the incumbent Donald Trump wants to expand the wall and is seeking $25 billion in funding to do so.
Well, this border wall replacement it's gonna help better secure our community here. Of course, our focus is to protect the nation, protect our communities here, and also our agents. It's going to give us better operational control of the border here, which at times has been in the past a problem for us.
The Argentine Coast Guard said it fired at a Chinese vessel that was illegally fishing in their waters last week. According to the Coast Guard, they warned the Chinese ship, the Jingyang 626, and its 4 ally ships, but they were ignored. As a result, the guards were forced to fire. An airplane was also used to stop the ships, but no one was injured in the attack. Renowned Ecuadorian drug lord Washington Edison Prado has been extradited to the United States. Prado, who has been dubbed the Pablo Escobar of Ecuador, was under arrest in Colombia. He was turned over to U.S. authorities by a 50-man strong security detail. Prosecutors accused Prado of heading a smuggling ring which spanned 5 countries. They hold him responsible for shipping more than 250 tons of cocaine to the United States. And in Ecuador, different organizations have met in Quito to discuss the situation around community media.
Community media struggle has become in Ecuador an example of community organization and resistance, like its Solidarity Radio located in Quito. Different Ecuadorian cultures work on this community who are fighting to conserve a regional identity.
It is focused on social aid to face rural issues. In the case of this radio, we don't focus on regular news, but on what the communities need.
Community media has created in Ecuador a space where any citizen can express themselves. As one of the main characters of Solidarity Radio, known as the Indian Manuel, who has been created this character for 45 years, preserving Ecuadorian traditions.
I'm grateful to the people, and not with the satisfaction of a job well done, but with the hope of making people laugh for years to come.
Ecuador's social organization, students, and journalists who worried about these issues have been held to discuss the democratization process of the community communication around the country. They recognize the advantage to have a community media in the country.
This is a response to the years of struggle of the marginalized people in Ecuador. of the community communicators.
The struggle for independent media is an ongoing fight to safeguard and improve on the communication law that for now gives community media a voice. Denise Herrera, teleSUR, Quito, Ecuador.
Time now for another short break, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin has agreed to a daily 5-hour pause in fighting in eastern Ghouta in Syria to facilitate humanitarian aid. Russia's defense minister said the daily ceasefire will begin on Tuesday. It will last from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. each day. However, the United Nations is asking for a 30-day ceasefire to evacuate the severely wounded people and supply aid deliveries. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for a new global effort to get rid of nuclear weapons. Guterres also said that surging arms sales and rising nuclear tensions required a renewed effort towards containing deadly weapons. He added efforts should be made to enforce a chemical weapons ban and to develop tools to manage the threats posed by new technology.
Weapons of war are sold and marketed as ordinary consumer goods, and the taboos surrounding the use of chemical weapons and nuclear testing have been repeatedly questioned.
The Weinstein Studio is filing for bankruptcy after an attempt to sell the company failed to produce a deal. The New York studio is co-owned by Harvey Weinstein, the Hollywood producer accused of sexual harassment by dozens of women. Talks to sell the company fell apart after it was hit by a lawsuit 2 weeks ago, alleging a hostile work environment and a pattern of sexual harassment in the company. Weinstein has been at the center of the sexual abuse scandal in the United States entertainment industry. The allegations against the producer led to the Me Too movement, encouraging many victims to reveal their sexual abuse stories. And millions of Indians are mourning the sudden death of the Bollywood star Sridevi. She drowned in her hotel bathroom after falling unconscious. She was just 54 years old. Sridevi was known as the Queen of Bollywood. She was on the big screen for 5 decades and acted in about 300 films. She charmed her fans with her versatile acting and dancing grace. Her death has shocked not only the film industry, but the entire nation. And now let's have a look at some other stories making headlines from around the world.
Around 2,000 public employees have marched through central Athens to protest against changes in education policy. Unions say they would threaten jobs in the state-run kindergartens. Minor clashes with police broke out outside Parliament, but no arrests or injuries were reported. In Belgium, thousands of people marched in solidarity with illegal migrants in Brussels. Demonstrators called for more humane asylum policies and chanted "Solidarity for undocumented people." In the Philippines, hundreds of people took to the streets of Manila to protest against President Rodrigo Duterte's repressive policies and his plans to change the constitution. Duterte plans to change the constitution in what critics say is an effort to prolong his stay in power.
It's a real erosion of our moral fiber as a people, and that will affect our children. Because now what is happening is that there is no more law, there is a loss of respect for persons, loss of respect for life, loss of respect for truth, loss of respect for law, and loss of respect for any behavioral code.
In Italy, a rare snowstorm has brought Rome its first snowstorm in 6 years and disrupted transportation, shut down schools, and prompted authorities to call in the army to help clear the streets.
And that brings us to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Soini Gray. Thank you so much for watching.